Alright, let's get this show on the road for all the people out there. Thanks for coming along, everyone. Or just Matt for now. My name's Luke. I'm a professional dungeon master for a company called Dungeon Master for Hire, as you can see. And thought I'd have a red hot go at the old Twitch. Seems to be the thing to do at the moment. So I got a bit of time on my hands. Thought I'd start up a bit of an advice column. Say hello to people. Give back to the community that's been so welcoming and open, and a lot of things going on. And I really kind of want to just put my experience and knowledge out there and sort of show people a good time. So today I'm going to be taking I've taken a few questions in there from a Google form I set up, so people can ask me some questions beforehand that I'll answer on D&D, professional DMing, advice. If you've got a home game you want to talk about, any questions that have come up, any issues you've got, meta issues, all that kind of stuff. Just thought I'd give it a go. So yell out in the chat if you've got any questions you want to come up. You've got that come up, or anything else. I'm gonna just got some pre-written questions I'll roll through as well, and I'll kind of just intersperse viewer questions as we go along. But it is the first stream, so there's not a lot of questions. But if anything, I'll just do it until I run out of questions, and then I'll go home. Well, by home I mean I'll turn around and go sit on the couch. Oh, hello Jack. Hello Matt. Got the old family support here. That's good. Thanks for coming along. Because it is the first time, just give me a hoy if there's anything technical wise it's not working out. But other than that, I think we should just jump right into it with our very first question. So this is from Thaytred, one of my dear players in one of my campaigns. He has asked, what is your favourite module to play and run, and why? So it's a two-part question. I guess the first question is it a one-shot or is it a campaign? And running and playing is obviously very different. So I'd say we'll do one-shots first. My favourite module to run as a one-shot is a modified version of an adventure called The Map with No Names. It's an Adventurers League Season 8 adventure. It's the very first one. It's part of a trilogy, and I've run it maybe 20, 30 times. It's really good because it's an urban adventure. So it's all set in Waterdeep, the very large city of Waterdeep, and it's basically a treasure hunt. You get a map with kind of not much on it, and you just use the clues to eventually chain your way through a couple of encounters, and eventually ending up in a vampire's lair. The map has, spoilers for anyone who hasn't played it, the map does send you to a vampire's lair, and you've been kind of tricked there, not by the vampire, but by someone else who is sending adventurers to their doom. It's a lot of fun. I do it for a lot of beginners and first-time players because it does really get you immediately into the role-playing aspect. So you are sitting around a table, you get given this map, and you just come up with your own solutions for things while guiding them along the way. There's a bit of combat, there's a bit of role-playing, and there's a bit of exploration as well. So it does cover all three of the pillars of D&D, which I really like. I like to show people kind of a broad range of the game in a very short period. So that's probably my favourite one to run. There is a trilogy, but as I usually cut out the second part, and just because it's all combat, and then just go straight to part 3 where you discover who's making the maps using your own intuition, kind of investigating, finding clues, and then leading you to the people who are responsible, and then beating the crap out of them. So I like it. My favourite module to play, well, I don't play a lot, I'll be honest. I kind of just like playing almost anything. I'm happy to have a go at almost anything. I do like to have a bit of combat, a bit of everything. Roleplay heavy, I'm not too strong at. I'm trying to think of something I've played more than once that I like. I kind of enjoy most adventures that I play, to be honest. So I don't really have an answer for that one. Alright, so my favourite module to run as a campaign. Up until recently, it was Curse of Strahd. I've run that 4 or 5 times now. I've got one active campaign still going. But at the moment, I think it's kind of fallen out of favour because it's very difficult. It's hard to. Some people don't get into the spirit of it, which is fair, especially for first-time players. So at the moment, I would probably say that my favourite, and this is recency bias, would be Dragon Host, Waterdeep Dragon Host. It's got a lot of strengths in being in a city. You can put combat in it. You can also expand it quite easily, in keeping people in one location and giving them a full city to play around and run around in. Yeah, and there's a lot of dragons and a lot of heists in it. I do highly recommend those of you who are running it to use the Alexandrian version of the Dragon Heist remix. It is much better. Fixes a whole bunch of problems, namely the fact there's no heists in it. And really ties the story together, as well as incorporating all of the villains into one big sort of overarching campaign. It does take a lot longer, granted, but I'm enjoying it so far. I've got 2 groups currently playing it, and they're at the same time, so it's kind of a lot of fun watching them see how they do things differently. And of course, I can steal bits from one game and put it in the other game, which is nice. And I'm actually building a sort of a homebrew version of Waterdeep doing it. Favorite module to play? I've only played Out of the Abyss out of all those modules. I've started playing Rime and the Frost Maiden, which I'm liking, but at the moment I don't have a lot of experience in playing modules. But yeah, that was my first game I ever played, was Out of the Abyss. I played all of that and then jumped into DMing and haven't looked back. So welcome to the new people. Hello. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Luke. I'm a professional Dungeon Master in Australia. I run a company of Dungeon Masters who are all very experienced and very talented people. And I'm just taking some D&D questions for advice here. If you need any advice or you've got any questions about professional DMing, D&D in general, anything going on in your game you're not sure about, just give me a yell. All right. Good to see all these new people here. Let's move on to the next question. And handsome, yes, thank you, Jack. All right, so our next question is from Platypologist, who is a viewer from Matthew Perkins' D&D Twitch stream. Thanks for submitting a question. Don't think Platypologist is actually here, but that's okay. So, how would you add a Rakshasha as a BBEG, which is a big bad end guy, or recurrent, on an Acquisitions Incorporated campaign? Play as a champ. This is a good question. I really like this. So for Rakshashas, for those of you who don't know, I'll pull up the stat block just as a bit of fun. Just give me a second. So Rakshashas, I can never spell this right. Nope, got it. Nope, didn't get it right. Give me a second. All right. So Rakshasha, they are a fiend from Fiendland. And what they do is they've got a lot of notable traits. They're a CR13 creature. They are lawful evil, like most fiends are. And they've got some really interesting qualities here, which I'll just pop up for you now that I've loaded it up. So a Rakshasha is a shape-shifting kind of fiend. They're particularly interesting for a number of... Oh, thanks, Mad Drop Bear. Hello, thanks for coming along. All right, so Rakshashas, they're, as you said, they're quite. They would be a good warlock patron. They're quite interesting. They've got a lot of vulnerabilities. That's a new one. That's the new format there. The damage vulnerabilities, piercing from magic weapons wielded by good creatures. I like that. Immune to non-magical attacks. Hey Luna, how you going? Probably the most interesting part of Rakshashas I like is the limited magic immunity you can see here. They can't be affected or detected by spells of 6th level or lower unless they wish to be. It has advantage on saving throws against other spells and magical effects. Now, this is particularly interesting because people can throw things at a Rakshasa and nothing will happen, and it makes them quite potent to actually deal with at a low level. Yeah, it's crazy. Like nothing. I mean, off the top of my head, just while I get my phone out, 6th level or lower, that knocks out things like banishment. That knocks out things like detect thoughts. It knocks out a huge host of spells. So it's very, very, very powerful. What have we got? Like Wall of Stone doesn't work. I guess it's not a target. I mean, Raise Dead doesn't work, but I'll Mislead, Insect Plague, Holy Weapon doesn't work on them. All kinds of stuff. So, as for how you'd put this into a Acquisitions Incorporated campaign, so ain't nothing gonna break my stride. I like that one. So Acquisitions Incorporated, for those of you who are not familiar, is a sort of a tongue-in-cheek, officey version of Dungeons and Dragons. So there's a lot of layers of bureaucracy. You ostensibly run an adventuring guild that has rules for business, and you've got level up. You level up your business with employees and range and the kinds of things you take on. Got to keep on Rakshas. I can't spell it at all. So Acquisitions Incorporated is a layer of sort of bureaucracy put on top of D&D, which it's fun. I've played a couple of one-shots, but I haven't actually run a campaign that I wanted to for a long time. I've run pretty much most of the modules that exist at the moment, minus a couple of the new ones. It was made by Penny Arcade, I think, but I'm not sure if he was a part of it. Oh, yes, Matt's dad. So, believe it or not, I didn't think of this. I had this question sitting with me for like a couple of days now, and haven't really thought about it that much. So a Rakshasa, what you want to do is you want to lean on the shape-shifting, disguising self, which is at will, so you can change costumes constantly, and of course the limited magic immunity. If you're running, oh, that's a shame. So if you're running an Acquisitions Incorporated campaign, you would probably make them I would lean immediately towards making them a rival guild. I don't remember if there's rules about having rival guilds that get on people's territory. Off the top of my head, having them as an exterminator, have a magical exterminator that basically takes all the good jobs. They charge a lot less rates because there is much less risk in them getting involved in things. If they can't be hurt by magic or by non-magical attacks, they could walk into pretty much any low-level encounter and come out unscathed. So as a recurrent, it's pretty easy to do. You just have the smarmy guy who walks in on his own, like a Ghostbuster, as Jack states. Just, it's like, I got this, guys. You guys, don't hurt yourselves. I'll go and take this. And you just stride into a pit full of zombies. And, just walk in there and just casually take them all apart with whatever weapons they've got. So that's a really appealing angle, I would say, for a Rakshasa, is to just be really confident, walk into encounters, and not take any damage. Obviously, they'd have to hide it, but it's a place to start. They'd have to, because people will catch on pretty quickly if they're not taking any damage. So, outside of that, a recurring villain for a Rakshasa. As a fiend, they're big on contracts, so you would have them potentially, again, more bureaucracy. Contracts and bureaucracy, it really goes hand in hand with Ack Inc. and Devils. So I think it's a really good place to start. As a Rakshasa, you would maybe get rid of people, do jobs for people as an Ack Inc. boss, guild leader, and make people fill in contracts that are unknowingly Devil's contracts. So those of you who have played or run Descent into Avernus, you will see a lot of this trickery with these contracts that the Devils put out. And there's really good stuff you can do about legalese and all things like that. I think perhaps having a Rakshasa... Oh, hitman for a company? Yeah. It's pretty tough though. Like, they're very dangerous. I like the idea, having a hitman as a hitman. They'd be unstoppable though. It'd be like a Terminator essentially coming after a low-level party. Yeah, there you go, Drop Bear. A crime boss of a major syndicate. They suit the role like to a T. They've got disguise self, detect thoughts. They can figure out pretty much anything immediately. So that'd be a really good. That'd be a really good one to do. How did Tabaxi feel about Rakshashas? Well, let's have a look. What have we got here? Evil spirits in mortal flesh. I mean, it doesn't actually talk about why they're cats. I don't actually know that much about them. But I do like them, though. I've used them a couple of times in very minor roles, of which I probably can't talk about because there's some spoilers for main modules that I can't really discuss. For those of you playing at home. There are a couple of Rakshashas in published modules which are good fun. And I've had a lot of interesting scenes with them. Alright, well, let's get rid of Rakshashas. Hopefully that helps, Platty. You can, Rakshasha. You could do Rakshasha. They probably wouldn't like that. Alright, well, I think we should go on to the next one. Hopefully it helps, Platty. Maybe come look at the stream afterwards. So, maybe Rakshasha was telling a Tabaxi either info or stories. Don't really follow that. I guess Tabaxis like stories. Jazz hands with claw. Oh, jeez. What have I gotten into? Alright, so let's go to our next question here. We've got another one from Thatrid. Big fan of Thatrid. He's put in a few questions for me today. Do you prefer DMing in person or online because of circumstances? Jazz hands should be compulsory now for a Rakshasha. I'd make them very cocky. Oh, now compulsory. Yes. So, circumstances, I presume, is COVID. So, a little bit of a secret about me. I never actually DM'd online before COVID. I didn't do it. I was only an in-person DM. But due to circumstances, I have had to move online, as a lot of the other DMs that work with me have had to do it as well. It's been interesting because while online DMs are a dime a dozen, they're everywhere. You can go and chuck one on Fiverr, start playing games, all that stuff. We specialize in in-person games because of COVID and not wanting things to die because well, we're not a restaurant. We can move online, so we did. It became a challenge. I was at first not comfortable with playing online. I basically put all my in-person games on hold, some of which are still now going. Some of them moved online. I didn't really like DMing online. I played online and found it to be too video gamey. Everyone's just trashing me in the chat. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really enjoy it. It felt very video gamey with all the extra tech layers. And all the things you had to learn, and having to get character sheets digitized and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really like it. I'm a bit of a Luddite in that way. Despite my background actually being in IT, I didn't really enjoy it as a player, and I didn't really enjoy doing it as a DM. So I did dabble. I was actually running games. My very first online games were running in PowerPoint online. So I would get a map. I would draw little boxes over all of them and of the areas, and I would just turn them off or hide them as we were playing. Dice rolling would be in D&D Beyond, or it would be in just physical dice as well. That would also work. And you're right, Drop Bear, you are right in that the lack of sitting around a table is a real detriment. So what I've tried to do in the last couple of I've since moved to a platform called Owlbear Rodeo, which I can't say enough good things about. It does replicate around the table feel, and they're actually a Melbourne developer, so owlbear.rodeo. Can't say enough nice things about them. It really simulates the around the table environment, and from that base layer, because it's so simple to use, you can use it on tablets, phones, everything. You can add immersion elements without making it overly complex for new players. Kind of getting away from the question here. I'll answer it quickly. I still prefer in person, but I am a big fan of online games now. With an online game, you have Zoom, so you get that face-to-face feel, but you have a very simple tabletop that's just for interaction, and it's better than PowerPoint because it can be used by everybody, and it's intuitive. There's 3D dice in there for new players, and it's my philosophy is to make it simple and then add immersion into it, rather than having a Foundry or a Fantasy Grounds. I did use Fantasy Grounds extensively for a while, because I needed a bit of automation, but I discovered I wasn't using a lot of it, so eventually I just dropped it. But Owlbear's great. I love Owlbear, and I run all my games in Owlbear now. I've given up on Fantasy Grounds. I have Foundry. Tried to set it up. Tried to make a nice automated, flashy, animated solution. I spent days on it, and again, as someone with a lot of tech experience and a lot of mucking around, I was just hitting my head against the wall just at how much stuff there was involved, and I just kind of gave up on it. I've dabbled. I'm looking for something that suits. I've tried Arkenforge. I've tried Tailspire. I've tried Ardent. There's another one. It might be Ardent. Can't remember. There's all kinds of stuff. There's even that one that's in the browser above VTT, which ties into D&D Beyond. Again, clunky, but an option. Ultimately, find out what works for you. If you want to run games that are super complex and flashy, just do it. Just go for it. I'm not going to besmirch anybody for that. But my preference is in person. I am back to in-person games now, very luckily. I've got one tomorrow. I've got a one-shot, which those of you who caught my test stream a few days ago, which is not archived, I was preparing for it on stream. It's just a one-shot with from the Fizzbarns Adventures. There is a D&D Beyond adventure where you play as dragons, and it's going to be for one of my regular groups who have only played online and they haven't met each other yet. So tomorrow will be their first face-to-face game together, which will be fun. All right, that's a lot of talking. How's everyone going in there? I've been reading the chat while I talk endlessly. Yes, Matthew, you have played my in-person game, and I didn't kill you, luckily. But Matt used to be married until his wife died in my game. Now she's dead. Not really. That's a joke. All right, let's go to our next. Everyone's got any questions in the chat here? Let me just scroll up. Just jazz hands are compulsory now with Rakshashas. That's good. All right, let's go to the next one here. So, from Vigil, the Greatest Paladin, what is your favorite book released for 5th edition, not counting the PHP? So, my favorite book, I think, released for the 5th edition is Xanathar's. I think Xanathar's is a really good layer on top of the original existing rules, and then they added a lot of things that I think they missed in the PHP. I mean, let's go and have a look just to give you an idea. I'll pop that up again. Let's go and have a squiz here. Get my Xanathar's up. Look at all those books. Is there any books anyone's excited about? I'm actually excited about Strixhaven, despite not knowing anything. So I mean, obviously there's a lot of new character classes here, which are quite interesting. I'm big fan of the Zealot Barbarian, the Glamour Bards, which I've seen, the Forged Domain Cleric, the Shepherd. Circle of the Shepherd Druid is great, and if you love running tons and tons and tons of minions. I won't go through all the classes. Alright, This Is Your Life. I find the character generation is very, very useful. It's a lot of fun. I've generated characters that a few times, and it's good to, if you don't have any idea, and you build your character's backstory as you make them. So it's a lot of fun. Beneath that, you've got some Dungeon Master's tools. This is probably why I like it a lot. You've got some rules about falling and sleep, and tool proficiencies, which I think was a really big one, because one of the failings I think early on for Player's Handbook was it just gave you all these tools, and then you didn't know how to use them. But this gives you some sample ideas on how to use it. The DCs involved. Encounter building, I didn't use any of that. Random encounters, I don't think I ever used any of that. Traps Revisited is nice. How to build complex traps is quite fun. Some downtime stuff, as well as gambling, pit fighting, selling magic items. It's a nice toolbox I think. I haven't yet read Fizzbarns. I've got it on order, a physical copy on order, to go into my nice little shelf over there. And all the other crap I've got there too. But yeah, some extra spells as well. And honestly, the thing I use at the moment in Xanathars the most is the name generators, because I have discovered that a lot of the online name generators are terrible, and this one's pretty good. And I have to stop making NPCs called Kevin, so that's my favorite. Do you guys have got some people like Xanathars? It's good. All right. Oops, turn that off. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll get Fizzbarns eventually. I'll probably buy it when I need it, but I don't need it for now, so I'll get it eventually. I don't think there's a book that I've missed, except maybe the Critical Role one. What's it called? The Wildermont. I think I've got all of them. Xanathars is great. It's just fun. I mean, Tasha's added an additional layer onto it, but unfortunately, I think it was to its detriment a little bit. In some regards, it became too complex. Don't get me wrong, all the customizing your origins and stuff, it's getting full on. There's a lot to remember. I don't know half the stuff in Tasha's. Thank you, Vigil, for your question. All right, next up, another Thatrid question. Thatrid is playing a Soul Knife Rogue in my Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign. He's got a very interesting backstory, which I don't think he's told anybody about except for me, but we work behind the scenes between our games to give him all kinds of weird stuff, and he's done a lot of fun stuff. Yes, Matt, you have a question. Which is the best level? Yeah, correct answer is level 3. Is that right? Did I win? Is level 3 the best level? Thank you. 5's good too. 5 would be my second favourite level. Level 1 is good for beginners, but it's rough. Like, you've got to be careful. I was going to say what's everyone's favourite level of Dungeon the Mad Mage, but I don't think anyone would like it. Alright, so Thatrid, probably asking a question here. What has been the most interesting PC development that you've seen? I thought about this for a long time. And for the record, I've run about 120, 130 games a year. So a lot of it I forget. And I'm probably not as good at character development as I should be. What I consider interesting PC development is characters going against the idea of what they've made. So it's people breaking their predetermined idea of what they want for their character and just getting them into the role so much they change in a huge way. In terms of what that's meant, there's so many. I can't really think of anything recently that has jumped out. Do you guys have any ideas of things that have changed? Just trying to think of big changes of PCs. Oh, I have one. I ran a game a few years ago, and it was a paladin who was a oath of like, what's the one where you whoop everyone's asses? Don't hate all my PCs, just some of them. It was an oath of like glory, or the one where you just whoop people all the time. And he was working in a party, and he wasn't overly cooperative. He was playing as a paladin, very, very steadfast, as they are usually. And his actions at one point got a few characters killed. He walked in headstrong. He made a mistake, and by the time he realized, like two PCs were dead. And he immediately, like, as soon as that happened, he looked over to me and he said, "Can I change class? Can I change class to the Oath of Redemption?" And I said, "Yep, sure, go for it." And he was immediately just decided that's what he had to do. And I think that was a big move for him, because he was such a strong player on the one side, and then immediately realizing that people care about their characters dying. And then he kind of turned around after that. Bugbear Ranger who became a Fey Wanderer, and he has become the Chewie of the party. Interesting. I like that. It's a good one. It's not bad. I could say that would work. Does he have a big bandolier of arrows? That'd be awesome. Not to toot my own horn, but I do have what I consider to be a pretty big character development for a character that I played. He's an ongoing character of mine. He was a very big, brash wizard, very confident. And he encountered an aboleth for the first time. Oh, that's nice, fur changing. So he encountered an aboleth for the first time. In a deep sort of underground kind of complex. And it started reading their minds and speaking to the players' minds, and it started pitting them against each other. And I mean, I'm a little bit ashamed of this, but I actually fled the combat. Before the combat started, they grabbed the barbarian and started drowning him. And he just compelled the barbarian and then put him into the water and started drowning him. And I just left. I said, I'm not going to be here. I dimension dot out, and I never came back. And people, the players around the table, like, what are you doing? I said, I'm not dealing with this thing. It's gonna destroy us. And I just left. I sat at the table and I watched people play, and they ended up getting through it. But I was basically shunned as a coward at that point, and I'd never played with those characters again. Rather, the player still exists. The character still exists, but the player kind of ended at that point. I ended up buying a ring of mind shielding as that character, spending all of my money to do that. And this is an adventurous league where you could do things like that. And I just gave up. I was like, well, that's it. I'm now scared of telepathy. So that was it. That's kind of what I did. That was a big one, I think. A ring of NordVPN. By the way, guys, this stream is sponsored by NordVPN. If you hate aboleths, use the code DM4HireAU and get 50% off your first order of mind shielding. All right. Has everyone got any more PC developments? Tinfoil hat merch. Yeah, I could do that. Get my logo emblazoned on it. Bugbear Ranger who became fur changing. I do like that. It's a nice development. All right. Any questions in the chat here? We've got some people popping in. It's good to see all the new people here. Ah, Platty, you showed up. Unfortunately, I've already answered your question. So you'll have to go back and watch it later. Alright, let's go on to our next question. Again, feel free to ask if you've got anything in the... anything you want to ask me about pro DMing. Any questions you've got about your games. I've pretty much seen it all at this point. I've run what I estimate to be about 600, 700 5e games. I run 3 to 4 games a week. This week's a quiet week, which is why I'm doing Twitch today. Alright, I think this might be our last question here. And it's from our very own Jack O'Brien. Jack is one of our fantastic dungeon masters. He is a voice actor and a stage actor, and he is also a very talented dungeon master for 5th edition and also for Call of Cthulhu. He's very much a Jack of all trades, and he's going to hit me next time he sees me for saying that. But he is super, super talented and available for all of our games here if anyone's interested. But he's nicely put in a question for me. So thank you, Jack. He says, have you ever had to improvise majorly around a player's creative solutions to an adventure? And if so, what happened? Improvising is a massive part of what I do, especially for campaigns, in that you can't... I'll drop this one quick. I'll answer this question quickly, drop there, and then I'll come back to yours. So, to improvise, it's part and parcel of running D&D, and you kind of have to improvise if you're not going to railroad people. In terms of creative solutions, you should roll with them where you can, unless it breaks physics, or if it's really kind of going to cause a lot of problems, such as player deaths and things like that. And I'll gently remind players that something you're about to do is very stupid, and you're probably going to get hurt doing it, or you're going to die, things like that. So improvising is something I do quite a lot of. As a recent example, I've been working with one group who play Storm King's Thunder, and they have gone into they're doing the quests where you've just finished one of your 3 settlements, and you go and do little postcard style kind of montages, visiting cities and getting rewards for them. In this instance, this was a recent game, they needed to retrieve a giant slayer sword from a corrupt watch captain in a city. Now, they'd been to the city before. Last time I went to the city, they abducted someone So they are not very welcome there. But as they make their way back, they needed to find the watch captain they'd never met, get the sword from him, and potentially do it without killing anybody. So what they've done is they got into the city. And we now went into kind of they said, we want to take our time with this. Like, we really want to do this right. We want to get this all done. We don't want to just find him, kill him in the street, take his sword and run. We want to do this properly. I said, fine, let's do it. So what happened was, it was in one session, but it took about 8 or 9 days in game. And they went to the city. They all split up doing different tasks. One of them went and secured they all went and found out where this guy was, where he lived. Thanks to some bribing, they found out where he lived. They rented a room near where he was staying. So they got a safe house to watch his property. One of the other players got into his the town guard and tried to get onto his group of patrol, which took a little bit. He was a former knight, so it was easy for him, but he went in there. And the third player went and started experimenting making chloroform. So they all did their own things for a couple of days, and they started bribing other people to create distractions. And ostensibly their plan was to get on this patrol route, send a message that day, and then ambush him on his way home at night, and then distract all the other guards. He has a retinue of about 10 guards. Take the sword, drag him into a building, chloroform him, get the sword and leave. But it took about 8 or 9 days, and it was kind of, because they said they wanted to slow down. I had a map prepared for them to go and fight him in the street or in his house. And they said, no, we want to do this, heist style. And so I said, sure. And I had essentially to change the entire structure I had to come up with on the fly a few additional heist rules, things like that, and how, because there was no combat in it. It was no initiative rolled, not for the entire thing. They caught him, they distracted him, they dragged him into a building, they chloroformed him, they took his stuff, they distracted the other guards, and they left. They may have knocked out an old lady as well who caught them, but that's okay. All right, hopefully, there you go. That's one recent example. I really should write these down, these war stories. All right, so Drop Bear, thanks for sticking around. I'll get back to your question now. So, what tricks and hacks do you use to not railroad the players into going toward the plot? To not railroad. I usually find myself railroading people towards the plot because they get very distracted. The obvious one that a lot of people use is the Quantum Ogre option. For those of you not familiar, the Quantum Ogre is where you prepare content, you prepare an encounter, you can prepare this, and you give them the illusion of choice. But no matter what they do, whether they take the left path or the right path, they run into the ogre. Say it's an ogre encounter. Say you have to go and get to this location, and you give them an option of going left or right. No matter what happens, they're going to run into the ogre. But they don't know that. It's a pretty common trick is that your your preparation does not go to waste. So it's a way of tricking it while you're still railroading, but not really. In terms of the hacks that I would use to not railroad players is I give them options, and they don't have to be options that I've prepared. I will say, well, you've got to get to this location, and you're going to try and find this person. How do you want to do it? If they stall or they're not sure, you could say, well, for example, you could go and speak to the local government. You could just walk the streets yourself. You could start causing trouble, and they can tell me what they want to do. And particularly online, I think it's fine to give people that freedom as long as they're fully aware that you don't have a hand-drawn map ready for them. Especially online, you don't have a map made. You should go, I don't know what you guys are going to do. So I'm just going to, I'll roll with whatever you want to do. And it's good to tell people that. You go, I'm going to do whatever you want. And just tell me. Just tell me and I'll try to make it work. Improv is very hard initially because it's hard to stray from the content that you have. But it does get easier. It gets a lot easier. Once you learn story tricks and things like that, you really get the hang of it. And as I tell everybody, practice is the biggest part of getting good at DMing. It is by far the best way to do it. Is just try. It gets so much easier the more you do it. At this point, I kind of have everything thrown at me, and I just roll with it. Hopefully that helps. Drop Bear. I wish I'd had a better answer for you there. I feel it's a bit disappointing. Okay. Yes, that is a good point. Let the players know that it's the two of you telling the story. Your You're there to present them with challenges, but people just go around them, and I'm happy to do that. I've thrown many an encounter, even recently, and they just go, we're not going to do that. And I go, okay, let's keep going. And you don't have to make it a quantum ogre. You don't have to force it on them. You could just let them move on. The pacing is very easy. It's very easy to pace the game if you find yourself out of your depth. It is also okay to stop and go, look, I don't have anything prepared. Do you want to give me 10 minutes? And just sort of think about it and write some notes. You can slow the pace down. You can start extending your role-playing encounters to give you a chance to catch up. Or you can just hand wave it and go, right, let's, you skip that encounter, you go to the next city, you get what you want, you go to the next bit of information that I've prepared. All right. Just looking through the chat here. Thank you, Cold-Blooded Jelly Donut, for shouting out Jack. He is very, very good. And his voice work is second to none. I'm very jealous. Yeah, so railroading, it's hard to hard the railroad. The Alexandrian does a very, very good article on this, in that players, to be honest, the short version is the players want to be railroaded a lot of the time. They need the rails. You can't just put people in a town and say, what do you want to do? You've obviously got characters there. You've got plot hooks there. The rails are always there. It's just about how obvious they are and how much you force them onto it. There is no... Honestly, if it was a completely free-form open-world game, it'd be boring. I wouldn't play it. I'd be like... They'll go, you're in a town. What do you want to do? I'm like, huh? I'd go and play AI Dungeon with Matt, which is, good fun. But it's not what you want when you sit down with your friends to play D&D. You want a thing to fight or a thing to do. You want a goal to achieve, and they are rails. Rails are a good thing. Rails are bad when you remove choice from players. Just want to throw crabs at trees, exactly. Rails are good as long as it's not super obvious. You're not forcing them onto the rails, if that makes sense. All right, and I think that puts us to the end of our pre-written questions. So I'll take answers from the floors. Hooks, yeah, there you go. So, when you prep for a game, do you prep options for the game as far as story goes? Yes, absolutely. So I think the common knowledge is prep plots, not encounters. So you have a good tip is from an RPG called Dungeon World, which is prepare for what are called fronts. So you don't have planned encounters, you have organizations or people, and what they are going to do, their goals are going to be achieved if you don't interfere. So their goals happen regardless of whether the party interferes, and you just give them clues or you point them in that direction. They don't have to intervene. But you say, if this necromancer is not stopped, he will send a swarm of zombies to the town in 7 days. They don't have to answer it, but it's up to them. You give them the option. As far as prep goes, I've prepared heaps of content, and they've gotten through about 10% of it in one night. Oh, hello Vigil, I've already answered your question. But thanks for coming along. The answer was Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Yeah. But in terms of preparation, it's preparing stuff that might happen and keeping it in your pocket in case you need to. I've prepared entire scenarios, places, storylines that have just gone, no, they haven't even resolved into anything. It's just been people have just gone, I'm not going to go there. Okay. I shouldn't tell. I'll tell Vigil. Vigil is in my Waterdeep Dragon Heist game, and I sent him to a location, a high-end bar, and I invented I made a whole card table, a whole game of people playing. I had 5 players, all with personalities, full of plot hooks, all kinds of stuff. And Vigil, in his group, went, "Yeah, we're not interested," and they just left, and that's fine. I'm happy to just, I can reuse that, so it's not a big deal to me. But what I've done is I have then since handpicked bits that I like out of those players, out of those characters at the table and those plot hooks, and put them back in the game in other places. So I don't want the work to go to waste, if that makes sense. And it's not railroading per se. It's more about just... It's still an immersive experience. You've got to tighten sort of the sphere of what happens for people. You can't just be inventing NPCs that are going nowhere and never being used. You just repurpose them and put them somewhere else, if that makes sense. But hey, this is fun. I'm enjoying this. Thanks for everyone coming along. a bit worried about streaming. It's not something I do. I don't even stream games online. I don't stream my D&D games. I don't know if I ever would. But yeah, it's interesting having those people come along to check it out. Come and have a chat. As always, you can reach me on Twitter, or me and the rest of the crew. DM for Hire AU on Instagram and Twitter. The Instagram's pretty new. You've also got dungeonmasterforhire.com.au as well. But yeah, there's not really much else to say here. I think I might keep this brief. Whoa, it's already been 50 minutes. Yeah. Thank you, Jack. Matt's gone. Matt was carrying on a whole lot, so I'll... I think he's died down now. He's gone. But yeah, I mean, has anyone got any questions? Ask me, even if it's a yes, no, whatever you want. I can waffle for a while. I might cut it at an hour. Let's go with that. Or probably less then. It is quite difficult to find questions to ask. Oh, bloody hell. Alright, that's not a question. Want to become famous? Alright, how do I ban someone? Alright. Let's report that guy. Spam, spam, spam. Just gonna ban someone? Sorry. See you later, buddy. Alright, there you go. I'm famous now. I'm getting people trying to spam. Alright, so Jack, house rules. Thank you. I don't use a lot of house rules. I try to follow the rules where possible. I have ancillary rule sets that I put on top of the game, such as custom pit fighting rules, some gambling rules. I've now looked into heist rules thanks to some other stuff. In terms of raw, I like the rules for the most part. The only thing I do change is potions as a bonus action. That's the big one that I change, that I think is not very contentious. I feel that potions as an action are just too much. Okay, house rules, additional stuff. Yeah, so I have a bunch of extra layers that I put onto things, but I try to keep it as raw as possible. I don't like to modify the game that much. To be honest, I kind of liken it to people who have a board game at home and they start just changing stuff on it like immediately. And I get really frustrated with that. I'm like, but you're not a game designer, so don't change the rules of the game. It's a bit extreme, particularly in board games, because that's been tested and refined, and it's a very concrete sort of thing. But in D&D, I understand it's a bit more freeform, but I don't really change a lot of stuff. I'll modify things a lot. For example, it's true, consider grapple attempts per attack. No, that's correct. Grapple, you can grapple if you have multi-attack, you can grapple once per attack. It's considered it's a special kind of attack, so you can grapple twice in one turn if you have 2 attacks. But yes, it is very unsatisfying if people make an attack and miss, and then you just move on to the next person's turn. That happens a lot at level 1. Again, honestly, Jack, I still mess up rules sometimes. It's fine. It's such a dense book. What is it? 300 odd pages. So much stuff wrong with it, or that I get wrong. But again, I don't see past level 5 very often because it's just not something we get to very often. Yeah. All right. Well. Oh, favorite magic item. I have 2 favorite magic items, and this really tells about the style that I like to run. My 2 favorite magic items are the bag of beans and the Wand of Wonder. It's probably for the same reason I enjoy wild magic to some degree. I like players having fun, and what I've discovered is that players love rolling for random shit to happen more than anything. Like, it's their favorite thing to do. I've never met someone who was given a bag of beans and went, ugh. They're always like, yes, let's go, and they just use them just for everything. They love it. They are quite high level items, but I do put them in pretty much every campaign that I run. In a lot of them, not all of them, but about level 4 or so, because they're just so wacky, and they're my favorites, I think, because so much strange stuff can happen that can really turn your campaign. Ooh, Robe of Useful Items is also good. I like that one too. But yeah, people just like rolling stuff. They love random things to happen, and really just, giving the campaign a hard right to sort of a turn. Do you have a favorite magic item, Jack? Besides that, anything else? No. Okay. I mean, what other magic items are? I mean, there's the deck of many things, which I've never used because it's too high level. Priority out of the 3 pillars. I feel like I'm being interviewed now. This is fun. The priority. I think exploration is the weakest pillar because there's not a lot of rules for it. I do like it, but I find it can stagnate and suffer. I think I kind of mostly... does exploration count in narrating things? Probably not. I'd say it's probably about... I like 40% roleplay, 40% combat, 20% exploration. It's roughly the balance that I like. Spider boots is a good move. Yeah, I do like spider boots. I mistakenly gave someone recently a pair of flying boots, and now they just circumvent everything. It's fun, but I have to put them in caves now because they're such a trouble. All right, who have we got around today? Some people I don't recognise, but all right. Why are spider boots uncommon? I mean, climbing's not that bad. It's not a big deal, right? It's just a bit of walking on walls. Oh, the broom. The broom is ridiculous for for flying. Causes so much trouble. But they're good. People like them. People love getting them. No one's ever unhappy getting a flying broom, except for maybe an Aarakocra. All right. Since it's just Jack here, well, I do appreciate the questions, Jack. I feel like you're doing a lot of the heavy lifting here, and I don't want to. I feel a bit bad. Oh, Ruxia. Are there any races that you would consider too strong to let into a game? 1T comes up for a lot of magic resistance. I've had a 1T player. Didn't really bother me. It was actually fine. I didn't really consider it overpowered. But let's go and take a look just to humour myself here. Let me go and find it. Give me a sec. Haven't looked at it in a while. It's been about 2 or 3 years since I saw a player from a 1T player. Where are they? What book was in Volos, wasn't it? Give me a sec while I dig it up. They are very powerful on paper. Nope. Oh, there we are. Oh, that's not it, is it? Well, 1T in Volos is a player race. Could have sworn I saw it somewhere. Do you remember what book it was? Come on, help me out here. Where was it? Yeah, I just can't see it. Oh, am I missing it? Oh, there we go. Yeah, got it. Role playing? Nope. So I'm just trying to find the actual thing. I've got the Malisons. I'll just go and I'll pull this up. Yeah. So, monstrous races. That's the one. Thank you. I knew I was missing something here. Let's go and have a look. Give me a sec while I dig all this up. It's like watching your dad use a bloody computer. Granddad, I mean. Come on. It's because I'm streaming, my internet's going terrible. I mean, magic resistance isn't kind of the end of the world, I don't find. There we go. I saw all the character races, didn't clock it. Alright, so 1T pure blood. Charisma by 2, intelligence by 1. It's basically tiefling, it's fine. Lifespan's fine. Alignment, typically evil, could be a problem. Height, speed, fine. Dark vision, also fine. Poison spray cantrip is not that good, so that's fine. Animal friendship's interesting, but it's only for snakes. Imagine 1T be trying to find a snake the whole time. Suggestion, once per day, pretty good. Advantage on saving throws against spells. Gnomes have that. It's not the worst thing. Immune to poison and the poison condition. Gnomes have advantage on saving throws against spells. It's not really the end of the world. I don't consider it to be anyway, but let me just double check that. I could be wrong. Where's my damn races? There we go. I don't see many gnomes. I'm really surprised I don't see gnomes that often. Where are we going here? Oh, it's only for half of them. Yeah, Intelligence, Wisdom, Charisma. That makes sense. I mean, it's not that bad, honestly. It doesn't really matter that much. I've seen them, and it was fine. Didn't bother me. Gnome's best race besides Tieflings. Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine with the 1T. At low levels, I typically don't allow Aarakocra for the flying ability. But every time it's come in, I've always been fine with it. It's always worked out just to be normal. People kind of don't really break things, and I had some really nice moments. In a recent game, they were fighting in a three-story tavern. It's actually part of the map with no names, which I described earlier. They had a three-story tavern, and they were climbing the ladder, the stairs to get to the tavern, and people were getting like shoved off balconies. And this Aarakocra player was actually super helpful. He was flying down and catching people and bringing them to safety. So that actually worked out quite well. I was actually surprised, and I think now that's turned me around on Aarakocra a little bit. In terms of classes and races, classes. Let's go with our list here. Don't see a lot of everything here. I wish rangers were better. I wish I saw a bit more wizards. I see plenty of the others. Artificers I don't see a lot of, but I do really like Artificer. In terms of races, gnomes are probably my favourite that I think I'd like to see more of. Let me just get my page up here. See a lot of all these all the time. Tieflings. Don't really use the Theros stuff. I'm a bit worried about those. Haven't used any Witchlight stuff yet. Genasi you see a little bit of, which is nice. Goliaths I really like. Bugbears are fun. I like a good bugbear, especially with reach weapons. Kenku are tough to roleplay. You don't see those very often. I'm a really big fan of humans. I just like them because of the feat. I just like getting a feat at level 1. I feel it really customizes the character and gives you so much flavour so early on. And welcome, optional rule. Hobgoblins are good too. Lizard folk are fun to play if you can pull it off. Tritons I don't see a lot of, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I feel like they unfortunately do require a lot of water to even function in a fun way. Turtles I've played as pretty much the weirdest races I played as Turtles and Tabaxis and all that kind of stuff. In terms of Eberron, don't see a lot of Eberron. Gith, I haven't seen a Gith before. That'd be interesting, I think. What was AI? I haven't seen a Lokartha before. And I haven't seen a Grung before either. Telepathic Kenku as a Warlock. That'd be interesting. Yeah. Alright. For the third time, I'm now going to try and leave and love you and leave you. Always leave them wanting more, I think is the saying. But look, I really appreciate you guys coming along. If you've got any questions, keep an eye on my Twitter. I'm going to put out another form. I think I might actually stream, might do this again next week. Just to have a bit of fun. Might just do it another time, get some questions put in. But keep an eye on my Twitter if you want to, on our Twitter, if you want to see some answers, ask some more questions in advance. But for now, I'll leave you to it. Leave you to have your lunch. I'm going to go have some lunch too. And hopefully I'll see you soon. Alright guys, bye.